trusted, 'cause you run to me, you cover me. I'll forever run toward the one who calls me home. Everything I'm longing for is in you, you alone.
No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying welcome home. Welcome home. No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying welcome home. Welcome home.
I'll forever run toward the one who calls me home. Everything I'm longing for is in you, you alone.
No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. You are standing here saying welcome home. Through all the turns life's taken, I've never been forsaken. with you. Life with you. It's a wild, wild life with you. There's no hesitation, no doubt in my mind. You save me from safe, I am brave in your light. It's a wild, wild life with you. It's wild. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild.
You're the first, you're the alpha, maker of the earth. By your word, you created life out of the dirt. Because you hold the world inside of your hands, you can move mountains at your command. You hold the world inside of your hands, you can move mountains at your command. God of glory, you are wonderful, wonderful. Christ the mighty King of all the universe. You are holy, you are powerful, powerful. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth. God of all the earth. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth. All the sea, all the land shows your glory, tells of who you are. It's the love of the Maker, shaping who we are. Because you hold the world inside of your hands, you can move mountains at your command. You hold the world inside of your hands, you can move mountains at your command. God of glory, you are wonderful, wonderful. Christ the mighty King of all the universe. You are holy, you are powerful, powerful. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth. God of all the earth. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth. You hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. God, you hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. God, you hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. God, you hold the world up, so we lift your praise up. God of glory, you are wonderful, wonderful. Christ the mighty King of all the universe. You are holy, you are powerful, powerful. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth. God of all the earth. God of all the earth. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth. Lift down praises to the God of all the earth.
I'm so grateful for your patience, all the ways you carry me. You have always left a light on, so I can see. You wait for me.
I'm invited to the table. You are saving me a seat. In your house I know I'm worthy, 'cause you died for me. You set me free.
No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never
cover me. I'll forever run toward the one who calls me home. Everything I'm longing for is in you alone.
No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying, welcome home. Welcome home. No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying, welcome home. Welcome home.
I'll forever run toward the one who calls me home. Everything I'm longing for is in you alone.
No matter where I run, grace will follow. The Father's love is all I know. I never need to doubt that you want me. You are standing here saying, welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. You are standing here saying, welcome home.
Hey everyone, welcome to Church at Home Summer Sessions.
Yes, it's an absolute vibe.
It sure is, and I love everything about summer.
Summer. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
It's glorious.
And to anyone tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you've joined us. Welcome.
Yes, well, it's a new year and a new day, and we are so pumped to kick off 2021 with some encouraging and inspiring messages from some of Gateway's great friends.
Yes.
So this January, we are hearing from some incredible guest speakers that are going to lift our spirits and motivate us for the year ahead.
Yeah.
So if you're not sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere like I know we all desperately deserve, be here each week because you're not going to want to miss it. To be honest, if you're on holidays, you can still watch Church at Home.
Oh, yeah.
It can be church on holidays too.
100%.
The whole thing.
And if you missed it, late last year, Rick had a pretty exciting announcement. So let's check that out.
So we've been putting a lot of effort into what it means for us to regather as a church. And we are praying and planning and working hard right now, and we're aiming to return to church 2 services on the 7th of February.
There it is.
7th of February. I've spoken it out.
I'm so
Tree.
excited.
I've spoken it out. Now, if you've been following along my church news, you'd realise that we're doing a major renovation of the building.
Yeah, you should see this place, honestly.
And it really won't be landed until the middle of January. And then, of course, we have to get across Christmas and talk to our team leaders and our teams about rosters, and it's a lot to do. So we've got all that to do. And so we're hoping the 7th of February is where we're going to land, and we'll be launching back together again on that date, which is really, really exciting. And I just want to thank everybody for being the church during this time. It's been difficult, I know. I want to thank you for remaining present and for your engagement and your generosity. And I'm believing that we're going to come back even stronger as a church. And please put February the 7th in your diary and stay tuned, Tree.
I cannot wait. We're getting back together in person again, and I can't believe it!
So excited. I'm so excited.
Finally got to this point. We're ready, and it's going to be so beautiful.
Yeah.
So pencil Feb 7th in the diary. Heck, put it in pen.
Yeah.
And more details to come.
Yeah. But don't worry, Church at Home will continue even though we are meeting together in person. We love connecting with you all online.
Yeah, it's been so good.
Yeah. And hey, we love encouraging people here as well at Gateway. It's one of our core values because we believe it really can impact people in a big way. So do yourself a favor and head to the links in the description and fill out an encouragement form, and we will make sure that it gets to that person, spreading the love.
I love it. And let's kick off this year with generosity, church. If you'd like to give to what God is doing in and through this place, then you can do that via the details provided.
Yeah. Hey, wherever you are right now, let's jump to our feet. We're going to worship.
Welcome, church. Jump up, get your dancing shoes on, and join us in praise.
I close my eyes and colors fly. There's no hiding from your grace. I can't deny your heart for mine, and its unrelenting chase. I was on the edge of deception, caught up in my own hesitation, until your love took over me. Oh, so I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. An oasis, you awaits us, all the freedom I never need. Now I'm alive. Oh la la, when I let go and I find life. Oh la la, when I let go then I find life.
The highway is calling me to a life unlike before. The Father's heart is beckoning, and I can't resist no more. Lead me in the ways of devotion. I don't wanna get caught in the motions. My heart is only for you, Lord.
So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. An oasis, you await us, all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. Oh la la, when I let go then I'll find life. Oh la la, when I let go then I'll find life. When I let go then I'll find life. Come on. So I let go and I let love show me life like it's supposed to be. An oasis here awaits us, all the freedom I'll ever need. Now I'm alive. When I let go, then I'll find life. When I let go, then I'll find life. La 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 la. When I let go, then I'll find life. Ooh la la, ooh la la. When I let go, then I'll find life. Ooh la la, ooh la la. When I let go, then I'll find life.
God, you are so worthy of our praise. You are so holy. You are the firm rock, the foundation on which we stand, Lord God. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
Good morning. Today, in the second of our summer series, we're going to hear from our good friend Kevin Thomas, who's the senior leader at our church on the Gold Coast in Queensland. Kevin leads a great church there, and Kevin always has something positive to say about living life like Jesus. And today we're going to hear a message that he did called The Art of Living. Going to learn all about the importance of walking in faith. I pray it's a blessing to you.
You know, the older I get, the more I realize that the enemy of my soul strategy to actually derail me all the time is clutter. It's clutter and it's noise. And it's designed to stop me from being able to distinguish the voice of the great shepherd of my soul that wants to speak peace. I think we've got a pandemic that was around long before the pandemic of COVID. This whole thing of depression, anxiety, stress, it's all the cluttering of our mind. And there is an enemy behind it. But it's not new. It's not new. This can happen to anybody. In the Hebrew portion of the Bible, there's a guy called Elijah. He's a prophet of God, which means he speaks on God's behalf to the people. And he's had the most incredible encounter with 900 prophets of Baal and Ashtoreth. And he actually calls down fire. And these guys are all taken out eventually. God turns up. It's a wonderful victory. And then he's on his way back to experience the spoils of this victory when a woman gets in his head called Jezebel. And she says to him, I am gonna kill you before the end of the day. He loses it. She gets so far inside his head that he can't function. So what he does, he runs out into the wilderness. He just bolts. He just heads out into the wilderness, and he gets out there and he goes a day's journey out, and an angel speaks to him. And an angel strengthens him and says, well, now you've got to go to Mount Horeb. And he's got to walk another 40 days and nights. And then he finds himself in a cave, consumed by his own thoughts of what's going on. And suddenly in the midst of the cave, God speaks to him and says, what are you doing here? And he blurts out all that's been going on, all the threats of this Jezebel that's got right inside his head. And then the Lord says, why don't you step outside the cave, because I'm coming past. And so he goes outside, and there's this massive earth-shattering wind. This wind is so strong, the rocks are actually shattering, but God's not in that. And then there's this massive earthquake that's going on. Things are falling down everywhere. Well, surely God's in that. No, he's not in that. And then there's raging fire that's just all around the place. Well, surely God's in that, and he's not in that. And then it says there comes a gentle whisper to Elijah. And this is what it says, Elijah, what are you doing? Go back to work. Essentially, that's it. Go back to work. And Elijah has another 41 days to walk back. That's 6 weeks in and 6 weeks out. You know, COVID has triggered something again in me that goes back to my clinical depression about 15 years ago. But it wasn't triggered by the isolation. Not triggered by that at all. It's been triggered by the voices and the noises and the so-called professional opinions of everybody that knows everything and everybody that's anybody's on social media, and there's just opinions everywhere. And as a result, I'm having to go back to the basics. The basics of living. And I know I speak to many of you, and you all are exactly the same. You see these voices, and everybody's got an opinion. And what's even worse now is that you don't just listen to your pastor, you listen to all the pastors in the world and everybody that's got a Bible, and they've all got an opinion, and 99.9 are wrong. It's the greatest place of misinformation now. And you've got these voices coming. And then you've got well-meaning Christian artists, and I don't want to bag anybody, and I'm not going to say anything, but then they go and write Christian songs using old covenant text and sing it over God's people. And then we're wondering why we're confused when we're trying to approach God from the new covenant, but we're getting messages from the old about how we should approach it. It's just confusing. And the amount of people that are coming up now with mental health issues or Messiah complexes, there's so many people out there getting enamored in false teaching. So more than ever, we've got to get back to the art of living. A few years ago, I was following a guy called Brian Jones, and he went quiet for a while, and he did a series of blogs, and I want to talk a little bit about this, and we'll send you the blogs during the week. But he makes this statement. He said, maybe living like Jesus precedes believing like Jesus. Maybe living like him precedes it. Like if you go and take the New Covenant and you get into the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you look at all those, you take a highlighter and you take out all the references where Jesus did miracles, all the things that Jesus said, all the things that Jesus did, how much have you got left? Well, interesting exercise. 65,000 English words in those four Gospels. 50% of them are red letter works, sayings of Jesus, red letters of Jesus. Another 45% are Jesus describes his early child, it's coming into Christmas, or before his death, there's Easter, and any activity, a miracle, work of healing. There's 5% left. What is that 5%? Most people think, well, you know what, the 5%, it's just noise, it's just throwaway, it's just the mundaneness of life. I don't think so. I think in the midst of that 5%, there's a plan. I think there's a plan, there's a blueprint of basic principles of how to make life work well. I think in the midst of the 5% that we all gloss over is God actually showing us, I'm going to model for you what basic human life is about. I'm modeling it for you. I think it's amazing. Think about it. God becomes flesh. Why? Yes, we know the death, burial, resurrection. Yeah, but what else? Well, he's trying to show us there is a way to live healthy. There's a way that human life flourishes and can still all of these voices that's going on. I mean, think about it. Why did God come at the time that God came? Why was it in this little place in Capernaum in Israel? Why did Jesus eat the things he ate? Why did he walk so much? Why did he spend time with the people that he did? Why did he order his day the way that he did? Why did he work with his hands? What was his approach to money? I mean, why did he prioritize sleep? I think there's a whole lot more in the 5% than we realize. And sometimes when we're doing our self-devotions, and I'm as guilty as everybody else, I'm looking for the big fantastic miracle, and I'm looking for the big revelation and that. But sometimes you're missing all the small stuff in the 5%, which is what we actually need to live well. You know, I've spent the last 35 years helping people believe what Jesus taught. But maybe the best case for believing what Jesus taught, maybe what Jesus taught is in experiencing firsthand the practical, life-giving benefits of how Jesus lived. Perhaps when people see how Jesus lived in us, they'll be able to believe what Jesus taught and what they see operating in us. So what's in those 5%? In that 5% is walking. Jesus walked. Why did he walk? He slept whenever he wanted to. He intentionally picked his friends. Now, some of you, that is the one thing right there you need to take home, because you are lousy at picking friends. You need to be careful about who you pick for friends. You know, he had a healthy diet. Why did he eat the way that he did? He had an older and a wiser mentor called John the Baptist. I mean, if you don't even believe in Christ and you look at those kind of things that I've just brought up, if you pay attention to some of those, you'd very quickly see differences and changes in your life. So even if you don't believe in Christ, just trialing some of those things might cause you to actually, you know what? I'm seeing benefits out of this. What else did Jesus have to say that I should take in note? I think living like Jesus is the catalyst for believing like Jesus. And over time, hopefully people serve like Jesus. They give of themselves to love others. When I was in the height of my clinical depression, I would walk between 10 and 20 kilometers a day. And I did it for several months. I walked around Ipswich where I was so many times I thought for sure it was going to come crashing down. But it didn't. It stayed up. Look at this. Mark chapter 1. It's just a throwaway statement. We go, oh yeah. As Jesus walked. As Jesus walked. That was the method of how Jesus did ministry. That was the method of how he did mission. It was walking. But until recently, I didn't think about just how much he walked. Look at Matthew chapter 11. It says, woe to you, Kazan, and woe to you, Bethesda, for the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon. Wow, they would have repented. Jesus is saying, I've been around, I've done a bunch of miracles with you guys. It's not even hitting home there. But he's talking about these two places. These two places were the closest places to where he was based. Chorazin was about 9.5 kilometers. It was about a 2-hour trek, one direction to the north. Bethesda's about 9.6, 2 hours to the south, to the east. So every time he went to these places, he had a 2-hour walk to get there and a 2-hour walk to get back. Sometimes we look at all the stuff that's going on and seeing all these miracles, and it's all this fast pace. This is so exciting. There are big spots between where there's like a big breath in between that God's doing in the mundaneness of life. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you walked 2 hours to do anything? 2 hours to go to the doctor, 2 hours to go to the dentist. Do you know what I think is funny about walking? It's the art of living, but walking now is on people's bucket list. One day I'm going to do the Kokoda Trail. How about you walk around the block? Oh, one day I am going to climb Mount Everest. Whew, you want to get some exercise before you attempt that thing. But what is that? Walking has become so foreign to us, it's on the bucket list now. It's on the bucket list. Now, Jesus worked as a carpenter with his dad. There was a place called Sepphoris. It was about 9.3 kilometers north, another 2 hours, where Jesus lived. There was no actual industry work there, so they had to walk every day from Nazareth to Sepphoris. That was 9.3 kilometers, another 2 hours. So Jesus has to walk 2 hours to work, 2 hours back at the end. And he has to do it 6 days a week. That's a lot of walking. And if you've ever been to Nazareth, there's a step before you start the 2 hours. There's 405 steps you've got to go up to get up out of Nazareth to actually start your walk. And those steps are not like we think of. They're about like 780 high. So it's about 1,600 steps. You've got to go a bucket load of steps to get up to get out. What's that all about? And then it's just a throwaway comment. It just continues like, oh, he decides he's going to go down to Caesarea Philippi. It's a 52-kilometer walk. It's 10 hours and 57 minutes to get there. It's a 21-hour round trip. And then there's those wretched steps at the end that you've got to go up and down to get into Nazareth. There's so much walking. And it just keeps going. You go to Tyre. This is just crazy. Matthew 15, he says, leaving that place, Jesus withdrew and went to Tyre and Sidon. It sounds so nice, doesn't it? Leaving that place, Jesus went to Tyre and Sidon. Well, that's in Lebanon, and from Capernaum, it's a 20-hour non-stop walk one way through all these hooks and crannies and mountains. It's arduous. It's 40 hours there and back. But Jesus just talks about it like, oh, no big deal, let's go down to Tyre and Sidon. But we're all thinking that all this stuff is happening action-packed, but there's lots of walking that's taking place. Here's the deal. Jesus didn't have to walk. See, if he was a rabbi, and they say he was a rabbi, guess what rabbis did? They didn't walk. They sat where they were, and if you want to go to the rabbi, you come to them. But Jesus is counterculture. He's modeling something here. This is interesting. In the span of 3 years, next slide. Maybe not. In the span of 3 years, Jesus walked more than a committed, healthy, exercising 21st century individual would walk in a lifetime. 3 years. But he had options. As I said, he could have stayed at home, could have said, I'm the rabbi, you come in and see me. You know, he could have been like the pagan kings, put me on poles, cover me up some nice cloth and carry me everywhere. He could have gone down to the Nabatean people. They had the Arabian horses down. They could have rode around on an Arabian horse. Or he could have just done that whole boop, teleporting thing, flick himself around. But he doesn't do that. Why? Why? What's so important about walking? That's what we need to ask. What about walking is so vital to flourishing as human beings that it caused Jesus to model it so much for us? And so much of this is missed. So here's 4 reasons for walking for you. And this is catching science up, where science is catching up with Jesus, which is usually the case. Physical benefits. Frank Burgess, he's an author, he said, our bodies are actually our autobiographies of our life. That's what it is. He said, when you look at the autobiography of the Galileans at this time, it's very interesting. It's not very good. It's quite sad. They ate about 1,800 calories a day, had 2 meals. Now, some of you are going to love this. 900 of those calories came from bread. Let's hope you're not gluten intolerant. And the other 450 calories, which is the other quarter, came from alcohol. Yeah. And the last 450 came from like a vegetable paste that they would dip stuff into, or their bread into. Occasionally they would have some milk products, dairy products, but not a lot. And historians show that there was actually no farming of animals in there for them to eat. So these people, when they went round and dug up some of the grave sites and things like that, they discovered they were severely protein deficient. They did not have enough. So that explains why the New Testament scholar, Richard Rohr, wrote this. He said about 1/3 of those who suffered the first year of life were dead by the age 6. 1/3. So if you just managed to get out, you're done by 6. Go back 6. We're done by the age 6. 60% of those survivors were dead by the age of 16. Keep going. By age 26, 75% dead. By age 46, 90% dead. I wasn't here. Less than 3% of the population made it to 60. Less than 3%. That means when Jesus was walking around, he was teaching, he was probably older than 80% of the population. And those that he was talking to would have been riddled with disease and malnourishment and things like that. And they don't have doctors. They don't have anything like we've got. So they're relying on miracles. They're relying on a touch from God to help heal them. But he was in his 30s. So sometimes we think of Jesus being in his prime, but according to the actual way that they lived, he probably wasn't in physical prime, but he was in better shape because he modeled something for these guys that they didn't do. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, says, walking is man's best medicine. Walking is man's best medicine. That was 400 BC. He knew that. Jesus pointed it out. Now I'm going to read you some stats now from a book called In Praise of Walking, and it's about Shane O'Mara. It's not some stats, sorry, some comments he makes. He goes, you don't get old until you stop walking, and you don't stop walking because you're old. Lots of regular walking, especially if conducted at a high tempo with appropriate rhythm, forestalls many of the bad things that come with aging. They didn't know this, the Galileans, but Jesus intuitively knew it. And so he's modeling for them walking. Walking is physically restorative and transformative. He goes on and says, we all know that walking is good for our heart, but walking is also beneficial for the rest of our body. Walking helps protect and repair our organs that we have been subject to stress and strains. It's good for the gut, assisting in the passage of food through the intestines. Regular walking acts like a brake on the aging of our brains and can be, in an important sense, actually reverse it. See, science is catching up about the value of walking. There was an author called Soren Kierkegaard, a very famous Christian author. And he had a sister that was sick all the time and suffered a lot with depression. This is what he wrote to her. Above all, do not lose your desire to walk. Don't lose your desire to walk. Every day I walk myself into a state of well-being, and I walk away from every illness. I have walked myself into my best thoughts, and I know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk away from it. Wow. Does that explain why Elijah had a 6-week walk out, dealing with things with God, 6 week back in? The art of living is walking. It's being mobile. It's being active. It's movement. It's everything to do with that. And it's good for physical health, but it also stimulates brain activity. That's the second thing that it does. Some people think like Jesus was born and suddenly had everything all inside him. No. He grew like everybody else, and he learned like everybody else, and he had mentors like everybody else. But most of the stuff he got from his heavenly Father as he walked in those spaces and those places, and the sweeping insights of what he saw around him, and his Father would speak to him and prepare him. You know what Friedrich Nietzsche said about sitting still? He said, sitting still is the real sin against the Holy Ghost. Ooh. Sitting still is a real sin. Wow. Some of us haven't even moved our chairs in the last 30 years. Sitting still. Sitting still in our faith, sitting still in everything. We've got to keep moving. There's got to be movement. Nietzsche wrote most of his good books during a 10-year period, and he was walking 6 to 10 hours a day as he did them. And his book, The Wanderer in the Shadow, he wrote the whole thing with a notebook while he walked. That was when the book was written. Countless people have always said their best thoughts always come while walking. I like this other comment he made. He said, we do not belong to those who have ideas only among books when stimulated by books. We get a habit of thinking outdoors, walking, leaping, climbing, dancing, preferably on the mountains and preferably by the sea. And that's where the best thoughts come from. In O'Mara's book again, he says, when we walk, we become cognitively mobile. Our minds are in movement, our heads swivel, our eyes doubt. Our brain activity changes and moves about. Our brain activity moves about with electrical brain rhythms that were previously quiescent, now engaged and active. Wow. We become more alert, breathing changes, our brains and our bodies are ready for action. Jesus might have been God in the flesh at birth, but he learnt things as life went on. In some of the more mundane things, and walking across time and walking everywhere, he learnt so much. He was invested into by his heavenly Father. It was like one foot after the other. Sometimes we're so impatient, we want things so fast. So it's got physical health, brain activity. It inspires you. It's inspiring to be walking in nature. Ruthie loves walking in nature. If ever she's feeling a little bit flat, I said, the beach is that way. Just that way. Bunnings is that way. Beach is that way. Yeah. Jesus moved his whole location into Capernaum, and I think that's because that was a breathtaking place in those days. It was stunning. But look at how some of the ones wrote over the time, like even David, he says, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have ordained, what is man that you've set in place? What is man that you are mindful of him? Human beings, you take care of them. What's David doing? He's looking out under the stars and he's seen the majesty of God. He's seen the wonder and he's looking and he's realizing how small he is, but how big God is. And it's inspiring him. You know what? I think city dwelling today, half the reason why people struggle to believe in God is because we no longer see the heavens. We don't see the stars. And if you go stand out under the stars long enough and you watch long enough, you can't get beyond, this cannot be just a random accident. Somebody or something is keeping this all in place. But we don't see it anymore. You know, even things like flowers, like this, like consider how the wild flowers go. They neither labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon, King Solomon, in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. We get inspired by nature. You see it in the very beginning. God is walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Why? The Creator's there. He's enjoying his creating. The beauty of it. There's something about in nature, Nietzsche says, that causes ideas to dance. And some of the greatest thinkers have had their greatest thoughts while walking in nature. So there's physical benefits, there's mental benefits. clarity of mind, getting rid of anxiety, getting rid of stress, getting rid of depression. You can walk yourself out of those things. There's inspiration that comes from nature. And the final thing is to meet new people. To meet new people. A filmmaker once said, the world reveals itself to those who travel on foot. You don't learn anything flying over things, driving through things. You don't learn anything until you walk. Have you noticed, I said at the start, I think the enemy's greatest thing is to create clutter and to isolate us in the clutter. Have you noticed today that suddenly someone pulls out a buzzer and up comes the garage door, out comes the car, off it goes, through to the destination, comes back in, back inside. Heaven forbid that we would see someone or talk to them. You don't know your neighborhood. You won't know your neighborhood until you walk it, until you walk around it and you meet your neighbors. And it's so unassuming and it's so slow. But it's one of the most natural facts because you hear everything. You hear laughing. You hear dishes clanging. Sometimes you hear things you don't want to hear, and you see things you don't want to see. But you hear, and then you engage, and it's like life. The dance of life is going on. This is what Jesus is trying to model for us. It's as you go, as you move around, as you walk, you experience God. You go, hang on, I just experienced my neighbors. Oh no, there's not a single human being on the planet that you lock eyes with that's not made in the image of God. It might be buried under a big pile of other stuff, but it's in there somewhere. And so you've got an encounter with God when you encounter with others. Really, I guess you could sum up the Gospels, really. It's really 4 books about Jesus walking around Israel slowly, talking to all different sorts of people. I mean, he talked to Roman centurions, tax collectors, priests, prostitutes, fishermen, Pharisees, children, widows. He's going around meeting people, engaging with the image of God that's in others. Friends, to be healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually, and socially, you've got to be prepared to walk it out with others and walk it out with the Lord. That's how it is. And it's that 5%. It's in the 5%. So when you're doing your devotions, don't just look for the spectacular. What do you learn in the 5%? What can you learn in there? Now, of course, you've got a decision to make out of this. Wow, I did not know about that. Well, you've got to choose now. What are you going to do? You can do a little bit, do a lot, do nothing. It's really your choice because that's how gracious God is. He gives us the choice. He says, you're free to choose, but you're not free of the consequences of your choices. With every choice we make, there are consequences. But I'm telling you, if you would just embrace this one part of the art of living, walking, you'd have better health, better thinking, better creativity. You'll have better friendships. And you'll be more connected to God than ever because you're walking in His purposes and in His plans. It's those long walks of silence and then occasionally these encounters where God restores your soul. Where you walk yourself out of anxiety and you walk yourself out of depression, you walk yourself out of these things because your hard drive of your head is fried. But you go out there. And someone said the other day, going for a walk, I'm going to listen to podcasts. That's not the point of the walk. Don't listen to the podcast on the walk. It's like, I've got so much crammed on, I've got to stuff some more in there. No, you go for the walk and just listen to God. Listen to the sounds. Look for the moments. Look for the moments where you can engage there. Allow God to bring stillness to your mind so you can walk it out and work it out like Elijah. But he had to go 6 weeks. You mean to say I might have to walk 6 weeks before my depression would leave? Maybe. Wouldn't it be worth it? 6 weeks to get rid of my anxiety. Can't I just take a pill? Well, you can take a pill, and then you won't have anxiety, but we can't talk to you either because you can't put sentences together. I'm not trying to be funny about that, but that's the solution. That's the solution that happens sometimes. It's like, if you want the quick fix, all they can do is try and stop it and suppress what you're worried about. But in the end, you lose other cognitive things. Now, I'm not telling anybody to go off medication. Hear that right now. You talk to your doctors, whatever. What I'm saying is you need to practice some of these things that Jesus is modeling for us. And one of the things is walking. Get outside. Get in the fresh air. Listen. Let God the Father speak to you through nature, through encounters, and allow Him to heal you. Because maybe living like Jesus is what people need to see before they can believe in Jesus. I believe you can walk out of every storm. Walk out of every storm. You can remove the clutter and the background noise, but you've got to be willing to walk it out. And I love what Kierkegaard said to his sister. He said, above all, don't lose your desire to walk. Every day I walk myself into a state of well-being, and I walk away from every illness. And I know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk out of it. Worked for Elijah. Hippocrates figured it out 400 BC. Jesus modeled it for us. And now science is catching up. A lot of the things that we're struggling with is because we're just too inactive. Everything today is designed to stop you using things. What is it? Why was it suddenly so hard to get off the couch and change the TV channel? We just have to push a button now. Heaven forbid that I would use my legs, you know? And now I couldn't possibly stand here and do this washing up. That would be, oh, heaven forbid. So everything is designed to create inactivity. Don't even get up and turn the light switch on. Clap on. Clap off. What's the matter with this thing? You know? But then here's the funny part. Then you have to go to the gym. You have to go to the gym and walk and get on a treadmill and do all of this kind of stuff, because everything else in life we do, we don't move anything. Don't move any parts of your body. Keep them as long and they will last longer. Phooey, they don't last longer. That's proven now. Science says you've got to use it every day. You don't use it, you lose it. That's how it is. So the art of living was modeled by Jesus. And don't miss that 5%. That 5% is so important. And you will encounter God so much more. And when you go, don't go listening to music. Don't go listening to podcasts. Go listening for life. Listening for life.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus over every heart and every mind, 'cause I know there is peace within your presence. I speak Jesus. I just want to speak the name of Jesus till every dark addiction starts to break, declaring there is hope and there is freedom. I speak Jesus, 'cause your name is power, your name is healing, your name is life. Break every stronghold, shine through the shadows, burn like a fire. I just want to speak the name of Jesus over fear and all anxiety, to every soul held captive by depression. I speak Jesus. Shout Jesus from the mountains and Jesus in the streets. Jesus in the darkness over every enemy. Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Shout Jesus from the mountains, and Jesus in the streets. Jesus in the darkness over every enemy. Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Shout Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets. Jesus in the darkness over every enemy. Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Your name is power. Your name is healing. Your name is life. Break every stronghold. Shine through the shadows. Burn like a fire. Your name is power. Your name is healing. Your name is life. Break every stronghold. Shine through the shadows. Burn like a fire. I just want to speak the name of Jesus over every heart and every mind. 'Cause I know there is peace within your presence. I speak Jesus.
What an awesome morning. The best is yet to come, church.
Yeah.
So let's get excited for all that God is doing in this place and all that He has in store for us next.
Yeah. To stay up to date with everything that's happening around here, and especially for details on getting back together in Feb, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you're signed up for our weekly email, Church News.
Yes, and we will see you next Sunday, 10 a.m. for Church at Home.
See ya.
Breathe in, breathe out. Stop the endless chase. Surrender all and I rest in grace. No need to worry when I can choose to praise. I find my peace when I call out your name. Even to wildest oceans you have spoken. Here with you in this moment, you're my focus. Jesus, you're the air I breathe.
ages.